Answer, Con?
Yeah, Jeff, when you look back at the first two games against Montreal, what was lacking from an offensive standpoint? What did you need to be better on? More chances of goals?
They were probably a little bit different games. The last game, I just thought we played poorly. It was the worst game I think we played all season in terms of how we actually played, in terms of our energy. It's hard to create offense if you don't win any puck races, any puck battles. We were a step behind the whole night, and it was an egg for us. It was just one of those nights. The first game, I think we started fine. We got in the penalty trouble, and then we weren't able to create enough after that. So, I think the key for us to creating offense is that we're playing on our toes, that we're playing aggressive, but playing smart. And I thought last night we started really aggressive and playing well, and then we gave up some easy outnumbered rushes because we weren't quite playing smart. We lost our body position a little bit too much. So we just got to make sure we're playing our game. We're playing with confidence. We're good with the puck.
Also, talk about Giovanni Smith. In the time that he was here last year, it seemed like he was really effective in just getting under opponent's skin and providing that kind of abrasive element. Just what's been lacking here for him? What does he need to do to kind of get back to that way of playing?
Well, I would say, first off, I think there was moments last year. I wouldn't say it was like the whole time he was up. There was moments, he kind of worked his way from a really good game and then he became a healthy scratch at some point. So it wasn't necessarily the whole time. It's something that I think he's still learning. Unfortunately for him, early in the season, he took like a penalty a game, and what that does, and it culminated in, I think, the first Montreal game, and he took a penalty, and I ended up sitting him because I literally think it had been 5 straight games with a penalty. And what that does is, and I get it, but it does is it takes away, you don't want to go to the box, you don't want to take a penalty, and now you get a little bit you maybe play a little bit more careful, and obviously Giovanni can't do that either. So he's got to find the balance of being able to play really hard, get underneath other guys' skins without taking penalties. And that's not a easy balance. It's a hard balance at times. And as a young player, he's learning that. Now what he's got to do right now is, probably work to earn a little bit more trust from me so he gets more ice time too. Right now he's not on either specialty team, and he doesn't get a whole lot of ice time. And so when you don't get a whole lot of ice time, it's hard to have a big impact on the game. Yeah.
Max Boltman.
Sorry. Jeff, with Washington yesterday, once they got a couple goals, how important is it for you guys to see the team that defends kind of the way that they did at that point? I guess learn how to play.
Yeah, I talked to Nick Liddy on the way out of the building last night, and he was like, he's seen that enough, having played in their division and played against them a lot last year. And he said, they used to, they did the same thing lots on the island where you just kind of lock it down. And, a little bit helps, the neutral zone forecheck that they run is a 1-3-1. And so it can be, there's positives and negatives to it. The one positive is when you're up, you can just get into that and you're constantly making the other team dump the puck. And if you break out well, you're kind of getting it out. And I don't think they created a whole bunch in the third, but they're okay with that. They're okay with, winning the game 2-0. And I do think that's a lesson that we got to keep getting better at and learning. And we probably play a little bit different, but we got to understand that, we've had leads where we've made it closer than we needed to because we didn't understand that we just got to make the other opponent go 200 feet. And if you do it over and over again, the odds are in your favor. You're going to win the game. And the odds are at some point you probably score a goal because they'll start to press. So is it a good lesson? Probably for our guys.
And then the top line, I don't know if this wore out with your staff, just to my eye, like the kind of turnovers in the ozone from that group. Like, is that something you kind of have to monitor for them as they're playing well, but they also have to?
Yeah, I think there's always a huge balance on, and it's a really, really difficult balance on making plays and then going over the top of it and turning pucks over, and it's a balance for sure. And I probably last night, I don't know that was necessary. I mean, we fumbled a lot of pucks last night. We just had I think potentially a little bit of an off night from certain guys but yeah, that's a balance for our players. I call it making a play or living another day, and it's understanding when you can make a play and when you got to live another day. And sometimes it's just holding on to it in the ozone. If you never make any plays, you don't create much offense. And if you turn pucks over, you defend all night. So you got to find the balance. Yep.
Jeff, we've been talking with Lucas Raymond, and he's at the top of the scoring race for the rookie. I guess it's maybe not a surprise because it's a fourth pick overall, but is he exceeding the expectation a little bit in terms of offensively?
It's always hard to know how guys are going to come in and have impacts, especially when they're not coming from the American League, which I have a better feel for in terms of knowing if a guy has a big impact in the American League, what I can expect him to do in the NHL. It's harder. I don't know the Swedish Hockey League as well. I think the Swedish Hockey League is difficult to predict in terms of scoring. The one thing I'd say with Lucas is some guys' skill sets are really transferable, and meaning, some guys score tons of points, but they're not going to score like that in the NHL because they have to cheat for their offense and they won't have the puck enough, and they just end up struggling. They lose coaches' confidence and they end up in the minors, to be honest with you. His was I thought a very mature game. Whenever I've watched him play, he was able to create chances without giving much up. He was efficient that way, and so I thought it had a chance because of the transferability to potentially transfer into the NHL and have success. You just don't know to what level, And so far, it's a small sample size. It's 15 games, but he's done a good job of it, and I don't see any reason why he can't continue that.
Probably an easier decision because of the pandemic, but he played last year in Colombia. You're doing the same thing with Simon and Vincent this year in Colombia. Would you say it's the best scenario to not rush them at 18 years old?
Yeah, I think I think that's something that Steve's real adamant about. We don't want anybody to come here and survive, and I've used that words lots with our group here. We want them to come here and thrive, and some guys, lots of guys can play in the NHL. That doesn't mean you're thriving in the NHL, and so I think just from a philosophical standpoint. We want guys who can, we want to make sure that they're here and they earn their spot on the team, both from an entitlement standpoint, but also just from a readiness standpoint, from a confidence standpoint. So every guy has a different timeline. It doesn't matter what pick you were picked at. Every player has a different timeline for differing reasons. I would also say, like the wing position is a little bit easier to make an earlier impact than center because of the responsibilities and probably even then D, but D just depends on your readiness. So we won't rush anybody here. We'll make sure they're ready to be an impact player when they get here.
I'm going to ask you a question with the Montreal angle, but what do you like about Alex Tanguy and what is he bringing to your staff?
I really like Alex. I think he's very, very smart. He's very extremely hardworking. He's very passionate about being a coach, and he's what I like about Alex is he has a very not unique, that's not the right word. He can see offense, evident by the statistics he put up as an NHL player, but he also understands what it takes to win. He played on some great teams and he played for some great coaches, and he knows that you have to be a two-way player. He knows you have to play from the defensive side of the puck. He knows you have to do all those things in order to be a really, really good player and on a really good hockey team. And so, I think he's brought a lot to the table for us. To have a guy, there aren't many coaches in the National Hockey League that put up the numbers that he put up. If you really look through the ranks. And to have a guy who has a different perspective that way, I think is important. So I think he's done a really good job for us.
Just about Lucas again, but him and Sider have obviously taken a huge, have become key parts of your team really quickly. How do you manage the fact that they have this kind of role at such a young age? How do you manage them and with the rest of the team?
Yeah, it's certainly. I think it starts with the fact that neither one of them act entitled. They're both guys that I don't really worry about them becoming that. I think they're grounded. I think they understand that they better earn their spot every single day out here. I think our guys in our locker room know when there's guys that are really good players, and when they're really good players, they want them to play a lot too. And if they're kind of guys that we're just kind of boosting up because they're a high pick, then they'll get frustrated. But when they can see that they're really good players, they want them to play a lot. So they want, ultimately we want to win. And those two guys have been able to come in and help us be a better hockey team. And I think our players understand that. Our job as coaches is to make sure that we work through the hype a little bit. Yeah, obviously they've had a good start, but they both got to keep getting better. And as I've told both of them, I don't want them to be good players. Like if they don't get any better from today until the end of their NHL career, they'll both be good players. But I don't want them to be good players. I want them to be great players. I want them to be great players on a great team. So we're going to keep pushing them to become the very best they can become.
Second kind of question that my colleague asked you about Lucas, but Moritz spent 1 year in the AHL before 1 year in the
Swedish, yeah.
And now here, especially for a defenseman to get this extra mileage in the AHL is maybe a bigger challenge for this guy. How important is it for his development right now?
Yeah, I think it's important. And as the coach, last year there was times I would have said, oh, I would have wanted him here last year, but that's why you have general managers and they take a bigger picture approach, and I think Steve, obviously it was a unique situation. We didn't know for sure if we we're going to play, and he had an opportunity to get him in a good spot where he could play a lot. And I think for defensemen, it is harder the earlier you go in, and some guys play, but they don't help you win lots, and so I think, he's at a year in the German league, a year in the American league, a year in the Swedish league. He's played 3 years of men's pro hockey prior to this season. And I think it's helped him. Now there's unique challenges in the NHL and he's still learning some of that stuff, but he seems to be a quick learner. So I think that experience really helped him. Yep.
Ted Colfin.
Hey, Jeff, just go back to Giovanni for a second. I mean, you kind of alluded to it before, but just the fact that he was thinking about, well, all right, I already took one penalty here tonight or whatever. And has that taken away some of his physical play? I mean, that part of his game has been rather, a little bit silent this year. Does that all come into play with all that, or what?
Potentially. I don't certainly, my message hasn't been to take away the physical play. It's been play whistle to whistle, and then get out of the scrums. I think he was in a lot of scrums and ended up taking some penalties in the scrums, and so we want him to play whistle to whistle, and then we want him to stay away from the hookings and the holdings. Those aren't intimidating penalties. Honestly, Ted, if you said to me, why hasn't he had a bigger physical impact on a game-to-game basis here in the last little bit, I'd tell you it's because he hasn't had much ice time. And it's hard to do it without lots of ice time. And so he's going out trying to earn more ice time, and that's a hard way to play sometimes. And it's just the reality of it. He's not on the power play, not on the penalty kill. When he's on a line that I've played fourth, it just results in not much ice time, to be honest with you. And I've liked other guys I've put out there more. I think there's moments where he's played good. I think he's done a really good job in the offensive zone. I think he still needs to work on just his play through the D zone and in through the neutral zone. But listen, he's a big body that has talent that we're going to keep working with to help him become a good player here.
It does seem like there's a lot of variables involved. There are a lot of different moving parts and all that for a young player like that.
For sure, it's not easy, and when you don't get played a lot, it affects you, and so I'm sure his confidence is not really high right now, and there's no way to make it high, except to go out and slowly but surely earn a little bit more ice time bit by bit, and as we all know, as that happens, somebody else is getting their ice time taken away. So ultimately, he's just got to keep grinding, and he's got to keep working, and when he gets a little greater opportunity, try to pound that window of opportunity open.
Perfect. Thanks for this, Jeff.
Yeah.
Last question, Kevin Allen.
Hey, Jeff. The adjustment that the defense has had to make to Alex's puck handling, Do you think that's complete, or is it still a work in progress? Have they sort of got it figured out?
It's something early in the year that I don't think we were good enough at. We've had a couple mishandles that have cost the schools. It's something that we've tried to do on a fairly regular basis in practice, almost every day that we skate, do some kind of goalie touch breakout where the D have to sprint back and be available and call commands. And I think it's still a work in progress. I think Alex can be a guy who can really be a positive factor playing the puck. And I actually think Greiser's done a pretty good job of it. And I think it's something that when you're great at it, it really negates the forecheck. And so we're going to keep working at it, but it's not a finished product.
Do you tweak your system a little bit to sort of take advantage of his puck handling, or?
I would say a little bit. We've gone back to some of the approach I used to take maybe a couple of years ago to allow it to be in the goalie's hands a little bit more and not necessarily go take it from his hands and even making sure your center's getting back and being an option and stuff like that. And so when I've had really good puck in goalies, it's been a huge benefit, and so we're going to work to try to maximize it the best we can.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
That's it for us today. Thanks, everyone.